The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, or should I say the middle class are becoming poorer. Now, this has been happening for decades at this point in time. I don't think there's any argument that that is the case. However, where the argument lies is why? Why is this happening? And so today in this video, what I want to cover is why the rich are getting rich and the middle class is shrinking, or the poor are getting poorer, depending on how you want to say it. But the bottom line is I'm going to cover why that's happening, and it's not what you think. So stick around and we'll get into it. Hey, what's going on, cash flow hacker? So it's Chris with Life 180, and this is going to be an interesting video because it's something that I think has a lot of polarity to it. There's a lot of different opinions about kind of why these things are happening, but my goal in this video, the objective, is to just kind of break it down and make it really simple to be able to communicate effectively why I believe the wealthy are getting wealthier and the poor are getting poorer. I allude to a lot of these concepts in a lot of my videos in some different ways, but I don't always like really break it down and hone it into the ways that ultimately make a concise level of understanding, right? And so the goal in this video is to take all the confusion out there about what's happening in the economy. We got inflation, we have the debt, we have taxes potentially going up, unfunded liabilities, we have job issues, the job market, the labor market is starting to trend in the wrong direction. We have a yield curve that's inverting. We have all these things that are happening that kind of indicate a perfect storm for a recession, for even a potential depression, yet somehow it seems that the economy doesn't want to follow suit. And interest rates have been going up. Things have been trending in a direction where mortgage rates have gone up. That's really slowed the growth of the real estate market, even kind of making it turn negative in some areas. But at the end of the day, this all leads to the fact that we are in what's called a market cycle. And market cycles happen all the time. We have times, if you look at it, and I want to go to my board here real quick, and I just want to kind of like utilize this example and really break it down. We know that these market cycles happen, right? So if we look and we were to go through this, and we could see, hey, market cycles go up, they come down, they go up, they come down. And obviously, I'm making this very linear and it's very consistent, and it wouldn't look like this exactly in real life, but we know every 10 or so years, we're gonna have these, what we call boom bust cycles. We know this is going to happen. And so when we talk about why are the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, is because wealthy people not only understand these 10-ish year cycles, but they prepare for them. Now, if you go back in time, we can look at periods of time and go back, and we're going to look at 2020, the pandemic. We're going to look at 2008, which is the Great Recession. We can look at the dot-com bubble, the 2000 to 2002 window, right? We can look at 1994 when we were in recession, 1987, Black Friday and the stock market. We can look at 1981, which is, after Paul Volcker had the guts to raise the federal funds rate after stagflation in the 70s, right? So I'll just write stag there. After that happened. So this is just the most recent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 periods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just add one more for good measure, right? So this is what happens. Why are the wealthy getting wealthier and the middle class getting more broke? It's because we have a financial structure issue. Now, if we go back to 1980, let's go back to 1981, when this has been happening, or the most recent 5, 6 occurrences or so, when we go back to when we're talking, at least at the beginning of this, what happened? If you go back to that point in time, let's just say this is 1981 right here, okay? If that happened, and this is 1987, right? That's the first boom there. So what happened here was 401ks were created and qualified plans, right? Qualified plans were created. So when you look at that, and you look at the fact that this happened, why was this such a negative occurrence, I guess is the question. I'm trying to think about how to frame this in context of this to keep it simple. The reason this was so important that 401ks came into the market is because it took every person. Pre-1981, we had what we would call a defined benefit plan, right? Now, a defined benefit plan meant you went to work. It was basically the pension system. The companies that you worked with and the government that you worked for, or whatever the state entity or federal entity or even the private corporate entity, typically had a pension plan that would benefit you. Now, there are still some states and federal entities and government bodies that have great pension plans, but most of the time, we now have what's called a defined contribution plan, where you contribute to a 401k or something like that, and your employer can match. But what this did was it took everyday people, and it had them contribute to the stock market, right? They started playing in mutual funds in areas of the market that they never would have played before. And so, once again, this isn't the problem, but it's the psychology behind it that leads to the problem. Because what happens is people started believing like, hey, it's on me. So pre 1981, right here, this time frame, what would happen is the investing was either in addition to your pension. So you could either go out and invest above and beyond your pension, and it wasn't going to hurt you. You could kind of speculate and have your own fun. Or, so you had your pension, but your investing was left to the pension plan, or you would speculate. And anything above and beyond that you did for the pension plan was really just a savings account, right? So you would go and you would have access, you would have liquidity of it. You could be able to utilize this for all the things that kind of hit you in life. And so what happened was in 1981, when we started utilizing this defined contribution plan, utilizing 401ks in the way that we do to this day, human behavior didn't really change, right? Because what happened is now we started, most average Americans started contributing to their 401k, and they had the idea, and I'm a big believer, words matter. We were taught that we need to save for our future, right? We need to save in a 401k. The problem is we're not saving in a 401k, we're investing in a 401k. And what happens is we're not saving at all. 64% of people have less than $2,000 in case of emergency available liquid to them right now. This is statistics done by Forbes, right? Like this is a disgusting number when you really break it down. And so that has happened. And this, I believe the root cause for this is because of the psychology between the shift back then from defined benefit to defined contribution, and the fact that people aren't used to having to deal with this, right? So in their mind, they think they're doing the right thing because they're told they need to save, but they're really investing. But the difference between investing and savings is risk, right? So if you can lose, that's not a good thing, right? So what happens is, people started doing this, and then bang, it went down in 1987. And then people, a lot of people lose their jobs. And even this in 1987, I don't know if you know, it wasn't even this long, prolonged crisis. It was a kind of a flash occurrence that happened, and it caused a lot of harm and a lot of pain for a lot of people in the markets. And unfortunately, when that happens, people have to liquidate, and they don't do, they have to make poor financial decisions. They make poor emotional decisions because they're not able to manage it. And then they go down and they have to start from zero. Now, this is the fact that it turned people in from being real investors to speculators. Because if you need to rely on this money for anything, well, Warren Buffett says all the time, you can make good money in bull markets, but you can make a fortune in bear markets. Now, make no mistake about it, these ticks down in all these environments. 1994, this is a bear market. 2000 through 2002, right? Bear market. 2008 and 2009, bear market. 2020 for a period. Bear market, right? Or maybe not a technical bear market, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like these occurrences happen. This is something that happens predictably. And the reason the rich are getting richer and the middle class is shrinking is because of the fact that every time something like this happens, everyday American families, because they have no savings and they're not prepared, they don't have their financial life structured to be able to take advantage of these systems, of these opportunities, of these circumstances and situations, because they don't have the ability to take advantage of that. They miss out on that opportunity. And in fact, the inverse happens. They don't just miss out on opportunity, they actually suffer through the process because they got to make poor financial decisions and focus on surviving, not thriving. And so when you make poor decisions in these environments, that causes the pendulum effect, right? Like, so let's say that the market was only supposed to go, to right here where I'm circling right here. Because a lot of people then make poor financial decisions, it drops lower and then it rebounds, right? But in this situation, what happens is this gap here, this is where all the wealthy people that have all the savings, that have money and liquidity in these moments, that's where they take advantage of it. So when people ask me, why is this happening? Are there political things? Sure. Do the bailouts have impact on the way corporations behave and the way that they've kind of like lucked out, the government's, got their back? And is that fair? The bank bailouts and the corporate bailouts with all the auto manufacturers and all this stuff. Listen, I'm not for that at all either. So like, I don't even really want to go down that road for a conversation because I'm totally against that. I think the government should be out of it. And at the same time, it's a system we live in, right? And I'm not going to worry about them because I can't control what's happening with that. But I'm looking at it like, what can I do for me, for my family? How can I control the results in my life? And I'm going to myopically focus on that. And so from that perspective, we're looking at this going, all right, it is what it is. Like I look at this and I go, okay, I know that the wealthy are getting wealthier here. I know that the wealthy are getting wealthier here, right? And every time there's a compounding effect. The middle class just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Wage growth gets less and less and less. Inflation is having a bigger impact. And so what you need to do, this is one of the reasons that I love infinite banking. A lot of people don't understand the power of what we do with creating your own banking policy, setting yourself up to be able to take advantage and build your financial foundation. Now, if I could learn one thing and if I could go back into my 20s, and do something over, it would be the concept of learning to slow down to go fast. Now, if I just could grow, this is my money chart right here, let's say, in my 20s, right? In my 20s. Now, during that time, let's say the market went up higher, right? And this is my friend's growth, and I'm sitting down here and my money's guaranteed, and they're going to be looking at me like, oh, Chris is trailing behind. We're doing great. And then boom, they go down right here, right? And now it bounces back, or the market bounces back. But the problem is because they maybe lost their job and whatever, and they weren't prepared, they went down, they had to they had to make poor financial decisions, right? And when they made poor financial decisions, now they're starting from lower or even starting from scratch, right? All the while, I'm sitting here at this time with more money, with more safety. I can use it for emergency, for opportunity. I've got a guaranteed source of funds. This is the concept of go slow to go fast. If you could go back and you can focus on building your financial foundation, right? You got to build your financial foundation on safe money, right? And if you build this financial foundation, now you can go get medium and high risk investments, but you build them on a foundation. It's kind of like you build the foundation of a house on concrete or rock or stone or whatever, right? Like you do that. You don't build it on sand because you know if you do, eventually it's all going to come crumbling down. And that's the problem, is most of the world has their financial foundation built on high risk investments and they don't have enough savings. And so when the world has any kind of hardship, because you have this one little point of stability, the whole world falls over and you got to start over. And that is the problem. So if you can solve this problem, if you want to stop being in the class that's shrinking, you can take control of it. All you have to do is not try to go out and speculate, because make no mistake about it, if you are investing before you're saving, if you're doing this, you're never investing. What you're doing is speculating, because you're not making investor type decisions like a Warren Buffett would. You're speculating, because if you need to live on this money come, emergency or catastrophe, right? Like you're going to be in a rough spot. So what you need to do is you need to position yourself to actually be an investor. I would even say this is the investor pyramid. This is the speculator pyramid. And this is what most people are doing, and they don't even realize it. And so the reason the wealthy are getting wealthier and the middle class is because this is what the middle class are doing. And this is what the top 5% of this country, world, are doing right here. Is they have this foundation of safety, right? They have this foundation built. And so now what's happened is, don't get me wrong, they've got some medium risk investments and they got high risk investments, right? They've done this. There's no doubt about it. And so when the economy gets hurt, sure, they lose a little bit. Let's say their high risk assets go down 30, 35, 40%. The same way maybe you lost 30 or 40% here. But guess what? Because they have their whole financial life built, and I'm just going to keep this color, they have their whole financial life built on this foundation of safety here, and then less risky stuff that doesn't lose quite as much maybe, there. They can then send in repair people and they can wait out the storm, and they can have it rebuilt. They get it filled in, right? And they let it grow back. And then that allows them, not only that, they're able to do that, but because they have this big foundation of liquidity that didn't lose, that never suffered, when these guys suffer, that creates more opportunity. It swings the pendulum of opportunity over to the people here. It actually has an asymmetric return because now they're able to take less risk because assets get depressed even more than they should, and they can capitalize and take advantage. And this is how then their pyramid gets bigger. Their world gets bigger, their empire gets bigger, and this is how the wealthy get wealthy. So they expand, you contract, and you have to start over. And so then they're starting again in the second cycle here, right? In this second cycle, let's say that's just the first cycle. In the second cycle they're starting with more resources and you're starting at zero. Then they're starting at more resources and you're starting at zero. And just repeat this process. This is the compounding effect, and it's happening generationally. And now what's happening, you take the compound effect into the fact that every boom bust cycle we have is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think we're coming into one right now that's going to be the biggest yet. And so the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you prepared for it? Are you liquid? Are you capitalized? Have you saved money? And this is one of the reasons that I love whole life insurance and banking policies when designed properly, because life insurance companies have been doing this for 180 years. They don't get you great rates of return, but they save your money in a place where they preserve the purchasing power of your capital. They're going to keep it safe. They're going to keep you liquid. You're going to keep control of it. You get the tax benefits of it, and you have access to it in time of emergency. They've been doing it for 180 years. They've never missed a dividend payment. Life insurance companies are not allowed to take risk, and just do the research. I'm saying, don't take my word for this. Go around, look, see, life insurance companies are the most stable financial institutions in the face of the earth, all the way back to the Great Depression, back to the Civil War. They've never missed a dividend payment. Never, never. In 2008 and 9, 567 banks failed. Not one mutually held whole life insurance company failed. And so I don't know about you, but when we're coming into times like this, that's where I want to keep my money. That's just me. And so my question to you is, are you ready for this? Do you have this financial foundation of safety to be able to take advantage of it? Or are you sitting over here? It's not hard to take some gains off the top and to be able to protect yourself. But the question is, are you willing to do what it takes to control your money and to prepare yourself? And once again, I'm just speaking this and I'm doing this because my values and my beliefs, I'm thinking about where we're going. And this is just something I think is imperative to be contemplating and preparing for. If you think that I'm crazy and none of this is going to happen, I'm going to say keep doing what you're doing and believe in it, and you're going to kind of ride or die with what you believe, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing. But I just, if you are concerned about where we're going in the world, if you're concerned about our political environment, the taxation risk, we have $31 trillion of debt, $170 trillion of unfunded liabilities. We have all these things going on in our nation and in our world that lead to the fact that, in my opinion, there's a lot of risk. That's what I believe, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can with my personal finances to mitigate that risk and control that risk as much as possible. Now, can I ever eliminate that risk? No, but I want to control it as much as possible. And I don't want to put my success in somebody else's hands. That's just what I know. So if that resonates with you, if you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, that way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Till next time, have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon.